so close to me?
Am I close?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I do feel actually a little close, especially. Is that better? Have a little separation between the two of us?
Yeah. We may be co-hosts, but I don't like you, so it's fine.
I feel like I gotta lean in, you know? Gotta have a commanding presence.
I'm the cool one. I lean back.
For our our audio listeners.
Holy shit, did you start?
Are we starting?
Oh my god. Man, they just outed me like that. Yeah, I mean, fine, we keep all that.
I thought we looked pretty cool.
We did. I was keeping it during the whole. I was like, man, this is the pre-show part.
Oh, the pre-show before the show,
yeah,
pre-show.
Man, you got to get. I was gonna say lubricated, but that's not the word that I want to go with right now. Right here on this day.
I feel weird. So for our audio listeners, we're actually in the same place right now.
Yeah, at least I probably sound a little bit different. I would assume.
Yeah. But it's weird. We're next to each other. I can look over to my left, but I feel weird looking over to my left.
No, this is just really well mastered. It's one of those, like, if I were to move my hand any farther past this point right here.
Yeah, it's a green screen.
Right there, it's a green screen.
But I feel, so I'm looking in the, like, you know, the webcam footage. I'm looking at the monitor when I could just look over here to the left, but I feel weird, so looking at
most people, I think, look at the
I feel like I gotta be like a newscaster. I'm like, yeah, that's a great point, Braxton, and then turn back. You know,
it's very interesting. There's like an energy in the room. There's a little bit. I have to have some mic etiquette here. You would think that we would have these in stance, but we made the executive decision to look cooler.
We do have a stance right here.
This is our stance.
That's to make nice to make a stand
against authority. We're
well, it's kind of carried over because last time we were in person, we had a good friend Kenneth, who is Salty in the Dungeon Chronicles, was here as well.
Yep.
But we just didn't have enough stands, and we didn't have enough stands when he was here, so I held it, and we thought, wow, Ryan, you looked cool. So we wanted to both look cool this time.
Yeah, I brought it up, and I was like, why don't we just do it? I started doing it. He's like, should I do it as well? Then here we are. Here we are today. Man, these settings on this mic, I'm gonna have to get used to it. But we're gonna do this eventually one day because I might live not here, but somewhere.
We'll have like a permanent setup though, and
somewhere nearer.
Make it easier.
What are we doing? What is going on today? What's happening?
Well, first of all, I want everyone to notice if you are video watchers, then you're gonna get a little bit of a bonus today. Cause look at us, man. Look at this.
We're twins. Probably can't see, but I got Ryan a gift. I got me the same thing. So.
Yeah, explain it, man.
At our local game shop, or at least one of them.
Support those LGSs, everybody.
Support them. Well, and your local comic shop, because this is one. It used to be the card shop, too. They got some more money, so they split up. They grew up, we got a friend that works there as well. So they have these dice necklaces. I was going to say it's like cacti. It's not. Don't learn from me. I am not an academic. These dice are housed within, like, probably an aluminum casing. Fancy looks. Ryan's is really edgy. It was the edgiest one there, but it looks so cool. It's like this claw, this hawk claw. I'm saying a hawk because it's cooler. It's not like a pigeon or something. Pigeons are cool. They're cute.
Or griffin, maybe.
Or a griffin. Whatever you want it to be. And it's holding a D6, like dangling it in there. And it shows a lot of the D6 too, versus mine. I mean, it shows a lot. I've got a D10 because I'm a warlock and everything warlocks do based off of D10s.
What is that? It's a D10. I know, not the dice.
It's like a crest or something. I don't know.
It's cool.
It's cool. Yeah, don't shit talk it. So, I mean, I'm a Hexblade. My Glaive does a D10 damage. My Eldritch Blasts do D10 damage. Bam, I got it. They had D20s, but they were encased in these massive, like, I'm not even kidding. It was like that big. It's that big.
Jesus.
And you couldn't really see a lot of the D20. I wanted to get him D20 because he's my DM, but I just figured that one looked a bit cooler, so I bought him.
I appreciate it, Braxton. We look cool. We went out to eat earlier, both wearing our necklaces. We looked badass. Everyone's making comments.
Everyone was making
I want one of those. And we're like, hey, go listen to the Dungeon Crawl, and you too can get your own.
Yeah, we got a new set. Like, this actually looks pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
But don't worry, you audio listeners, if you're out there still. Most of our audience listens on. Okay, you know what? Call to action. If you're on the audio version right now, you don't even have to watch the YouTube version. Just go hit the like button.
Let's subscribe first so you can make sure you can watch it in the future, because we also post the Dungeon Chronicles on there, which is our actual play podcast. But our plan is at some point for video people, we're planning is when we get like a permanent location, have something cool in the background, maybe some D&D setup or a green screen to make it look cooler. But it would be cool to have like some books in the back. I mean, I have all the D&D books over there, so maybe we could have a shelf behind us.
I would have to buy them because it's probably going to be in.
I can just bring him. I could bring him over every time.
Oh my god!
No, never mind.
We might live near each other in the same apartment complex. Look, I'm seeing some stuff tomorrow. What's going on? Other things that are happening in the future as well.
Oh my! What's happening in the future, Braxton?
Ravenloft, dude.
Ravenloft. Well, actually, by the time you guys are listening to this podcast, it's out.
It is out, actually.
You can go check it out.
It always happens. We mentioned this last episode as well. Whenever we decided on the days that we were going to release this podcast, we hadn't seen a release of a D&D thing, or at least he and I hadn't been like super focused on them coming out, so we might have picked a different day. But from now and henceforth, it looks like they're releasing their official content.
I mean, it still gives us a time to prepare, look through the content.
Yeah. So we spent a couple hours. I'm a slow reader sometimes, especially for this because I have to comprehend it, give you guys the details on it. We don't do big analyses on them, but I want to know what's going on, so we'll do that. And then the subsequent week, so a week from today, this episode's release, we will be doing our review of that as well. So keep an eye out for Ravenloft. But we were like, okay, we want to bank in on that search engine optimization.
True.
Everybody's going to be searching, ooh, Ravenloft. What should I play and how can I do good in all these domains of dread? And we're like, okay, we haven't done a class episode in a long time.
Yeah, we said we were going to start a series on them, and we did one episode.
There will be.
Well, we got distracted because we did a wizard episode, which was great. Go listen to it. And then we did, we're like, hey, we never really talked about spells on the podcast. Then we did 2 episodes talking about our favorite, or the spell schools. Then we did an episode on our favorite 9th level spells, did a whole tier list. And then we got distracted with, I think Candlekeep came out or something around that time.
Yeah, something like that. So we were thinking, how do we merge the two? How do we get Ravenloft in the title? Stan's gone.
We made a joke.
The joke's gone. How do we get Ravenloft in the title, but also help people prepare and learn, about a class, and also maybe give them something to do when they jump into Ravenloft? Yeah. Well, what is the best class to play going into Ravenloft? That's this episode. Hello, holy shit. He's Ryan.
He's Braxton.
This is the Dungeon Crawl. And today we're going to be talking to you about, you're looking at the title, I probably should say it already, the Cleric.
Yeah, we thought about paladins, and I guess you could argue paladins are a little stronger than a cleric, but the big caveat of why you'd probably want to bring a cleric to a party in Ravenloft, because paladins, they also do undead damage, holy stuff, whatever, but you're going to heal a little bit more as a cleric, and I guarantee if anyone's played Strahd, if anyone's done other Ravenloft stuff, or even just knows Curse of Strahd, I mean, it's a tough ass campaign. Lots of bad things happen. Lots of healing needs to be dished out. So you can be that for your party.
Not a lot of rests or opportunities for them. If your DM's playing it a certain way.
Vampires.
We'll see. I don't know. So the thing with clerics to me is when I started Dungeons and Dragons, they seemed like the resident healer. Like what is everybody else playing? I'm the guy who walked into D&D late. You're the cleric. Yeah,
I mean, it's the guy like in MMOs, it's the priest, it's the one that people kind of get defaulted to if they don't really know what else, because it's a very clear goal.
Yeah,
you want to heal your party, you want to heal your friends, pick a cleric.
So it's a bit different in Dungeons and Dragons, at least 5e.
A little bit, yeah.
So the clerics that I've played with before, having my current conception of, all right, I love the heals, thank you so much, this is great. Fast forward to a battle that I'm in right now, and everybody's getting destroyed and whatnot, and there's one big bad evil guy. Everybody's tapped out of spell slots. The cleric looks at the guy, says a word, and does some somatic thing, and he's just dead.
Yeah.
And they've got the turn undead stuff. This guy wasn't even undead. They just did a spell that I forget the name of, and we'll learn probably about later, and did a booty ton of damage.
Booty.
And I was dumbfounded. Did not realize clerics could do that. So if there's anybody out here right now, you can take anything from this, is that clerics, they can also do damage.
True, but I would also say the interesting thing about the cleric to me is that you have to be comfortable with not being the hero, the quote unquote. You're not the guy that's gonna be getting the final hit on a lot of stuff. You're not gonna be, cleaving something in two with a battle axe, but you're gonna be keeping your friends from dying. You're going to be controlling the battlefield in different ways. I mean, it's don't get me wrong. It's a lot you can do. You're just not the de facto hero of the world, more or less.
You're my hero. At least you're Braxton of the Dungeon Crawl.
You're the party's healer.
Yeah.
Hero and healer.
And there's an interesting conversation we'll get into later, but generally clerics, they follow some sort of religion or a god.
Divine.
So you'll jump into D&D Beyond or the Player's Handbook, and you'll be like, all right, what are the gods that I can look through to pick from? You'll find them if you feel that the character's background and the personality works well with it. Maybe it doesn't. If you've played Genshin Impact, sorry, Ryan, there's a character, Rosaria, that is a terrible nun, but she still follows the god. Can't even say his name right. I mean, there's some variety you can do there. You don't have to be the straightforward, I will heal you, and please worship my god as well.
Zenyatta kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say cleric kind of gets tossed into the same category as warlock, paladin, and honestly, that's probably the only other ones I'd say fit into the category of work with your DM a lot. Because you got to set up for warlocks, you got to set up a patron.
Yeah.
For clerics and paladins, you got to set up a deity. And some there are homebrew worlds, but there's also like Forgotten Realms, Faerun, that type of stuff, Dragonlance, Eberron, and each one has its own pantheon, its own set of stuff. So I definitely say before you want to make your cleric, you got to talk to the DM. You got to figure out what's on the board. And for DMs out there, if you want clerics to be in your world or paladins, anything divine, you gotta create a well-defined cosmology. It's gotta be done. I don't think you have to have it completely set up. I don't think it has to be, concrete and fleshed out for every single god like crazy. And you can go listen to we did like a deities episode at one point. Go listen to that. But I would say you have to at least have an idea. You need to start developing the patron, developing the deity in some manner of speaking. I know if my buddy's playing a life domain cleric, there's got to be something that can slide in there. And I would also argue DMs have some flexibility with that. If the player looks through your gods and like, none of these fit what I want, allow them to make their own or come up with some of these weird ideas that we'll probably bring up in a few minutes or so.
That's the great thing with D&D too, and it's a bit of a sore topic for me right now because of the rumors I heard from Strahd. Or not Strahd for Ravenloft that's coming out, but it's not this podcast episode. So we'll talk about it on that one, or possibly whenever the hell, maybe at the end of this one. You can do whatever. Like for my Warlock, Ryan and I turned Hexblade, which is traditionally Raven Queen-esque. I mean, the titular weapon that she gives you is something that she has, but we changed it to Great Old One's Hexblade. You do whatever you want. You're not locked down here. So clerics, traditionally, they heal and whatnot. But the way that they do these is by getting powers from this god that we've mentioned, that you've established, that you've written with your DM. They are spellcasters. If you didn't get that idea already, you're going to be casting a lot of spells, and the way in which they do so is by preparation.
And the way they prepare is a little bit different.
Very different
than some. There's some druids are the same way, but they have their whole spell list to choose from to prepare every night, and it can. Early levels, there's still a lot, but once you get to like level 7, 10, it starts getting pretty chunky. You got a lot to look through. So I'd recommend if you're going into spellcasting, maybe playing a one-shot, you guys are a higher level than you're used to, maybe avoid the clerics. There's a lot to pick from.
Cool thing, though, is you don't have to pick every single spell.
True.
There are some from your domain that you just get.
Yes.
You have them prepared always. You can't turn them off. Still cost spell slots. And the way that's calculated as well is a bit different. At least compared to Warlocks and how I know. I haven't played another spellcaster yet, so that's the interesting thing. But I like the way that they prepare them as well. There's been some moments in campaigns I've played where I didn't realize this. So first, inform your players on how your spells work. Maybe we did something bad happened, and I needed a certain spell. I'm like, hey, can you just do a little magic and put it on me? They're like, oh, I don't have that today. I was like, wait, what do you mean you don't have it today?
I'll have it tomorrow.
So it's a bit confusing. And you're going to get your staple spells that you've got that you always have, but maybe you're not expecting to run into any undead, or you're not expecting to heal that much today.
You don't think you're going into combat.
Yeah. Or maybe you're in some sort of controlled area where maybe it's like some sort of arena shit and they've got a medic on hand. You're like, I'm just going to deal some damage. Or maybe you're not even a damaged cleric. I don't know. It changes. So where do we go from here, though? What's next for the cleric? What's important to them?
I guess if we're starting from the beginning, start from scratch. And we kind of did this with our wizard one too. Mechanics wise, for the thing, you're going to want to have wisdom.
Yeah.
If you're making your stats and stuff, you already have a few things figured out. Just checking out the player's handbook, wisdom should be your highest. That's your spellcasting thing.
Unless you're like Jamie of the Dungeon Chronicles. I played in a session with her yesterday. She plays a paladin. Paladins use charisma. She's got
charismatic.
a +1 to charisma. They do work too, but
they do.
You don't have to. That's just the recommendation that if you want to not like piss on shit.
Like for example, Ormato going with the Dungeon Chronicles. His highest stat is not wisdom, but he's a cleric.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his highest is charisma.
He is pretty charismatic.
I think it's either that or strength. I can't remember. Which gives me to the next one. Your second highest should probably either be either constitution or strength, depending on what exactly you're going for.
Yeah. So say you're going through D&D Beyond right now. You're going to run through
Great website.
Yes, I pretty much use it exclusively for rolling and shit and whatnot. You're going to see your spell list and whatnot. You're going to calculate your hit points, which for regards to that, it's still your Constitution modifier. Modifier is usual for everything, 1d8 per level, and your hit die is 1d8 as well. Get your token proficiencies and whatnot, saving throws, blah, 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 spell casting, but then you jump into Divine Domain at first level. Hold on, what?
No, they get their subclass at level 1.
Which is interesting. Why do you think they did that, though?
Well, maybe because your divine god is already affecting you from day 1.
It makes sense, too, because otherwise you would have to have had some sort of event. You don't have to, but the way our games run is things, as you level up, make sense realistically within the world. It's how you get these powers. So in your background, you probably already follow this god or you've been to church before. It's like, no, duh, you're going to know.
Which is interesting to think, though, that, like how commoners and stuff are technically not even like a level 1 character. They're less than that. So most priests that you come across, they're not even remotely close to what clerics are.
Right.
Clerics are, they're blessed even more by their divine god than a priest or an acolyte is at their place of worship.
Of course, you can rule it however you want to. Like, you could be some pisswater dude and something, but maybe you just have these spells. It's whatever you want to rule with it. It depends on if your campaign's high magic, low magic, and whatnot. But before we jump into the domains themselves, there is an implement of peace that you have as well, which is something that gives you just an extra proficiency. A lot of classes have these as well. And I think that's all of the key things that you can kind of forge going through. There's some other features that got added in with Tasha's as well.
Yeah.
But first level, jumping back, because this is the most important thing you're going to think about, is what do you want to play like? What do you want to do? What abilities do you want to get?
Other classes get some time to think about it. You got to
third
level 3 usually.
And for the most part, levels 1 and 2 go by pretty quickly because everybody is waiting to get to third level to have their shit.
If you're playing in a good campaign, your DM will probably speed that crap along.
Yeah. So if we're just jumping through and listing these, because the names are pretty, like, tell all about what they do.
They're all domains.
So there's the grave domain, knowledge domain, life domain, light, not to be confused with life, nature, peace, tempest, trickery, twilight, and war. So some things in there that don't even feel like they would go with your traditional cleric, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, Tempest and War are definitely more on the front lines kind of cleric. You got some of the other ones like, I'd say Forge. Forge is also in the front lines too. We were actually talking about this earlier, but to me, clerics are kind of broken up into 3 different categories. And I guess that's what D&D kind of is. There's the frontline character, the DPS character, the tank character, and then the healer support character. And the majority of cleric subclasses fit into that final group.
Yeah, I would agree.
Support stuff. But there are a few that kind of break that mold. Some that go to the more kind of tanky stuff. Some that move a little bit more to the DPS side. But most of them are in the support. And my favorites of the domains are Forge domain. I think it's a little bit of a different kind of cleric. It's focused on the front lines. You get a great starting spell list. I dig it. Let's get the light domain. This is a player's handbook subclass, which I know.
Yeah.
Most of the player's handbook subclass is not that good, but light domain is badass. I love it. Very strong, has some cool kind of control-y aspects of the battlefield. The peace domain is very powerful. I believe that's Tasha's.
I think it is. And the thing about the peace domain is a lot of people feel like they have to play it to where my character doesn't do combat, which is pretty interesting. It might grind some gears of the other people in your group because they probably want to fight some stuff. So see if that'll work in the type of game that you're playing. But I think it's an interesting choice, to 100%. Say the least.
My favorite, though. Twilight domain. Cool. I know I didn't say grave. That's what Romano is playing. But the Twilight domain just tickles me.
It tickles you?
Yeah, it tickles me in a strange way.
I want to jump through at least the Twilight domain because we both think it's our favorite.
I love it. It's in Tasha's.
Specifically for this domain to kind of sell it on you, they get, of course, spells that are unique to them, like Fairy Fire, Sleep. And if you're jumping farther, like to mid-range, or a Vitality, or Luminous Tiny Hut, Mislead and Circle of Power, all the way in the end, greater invisibility.
A lot of those are not on the cleric spell list, period.
No.
That's like kind of frustrating thing about some of the subclasses. It's some of the domain spells that you get are already cleric spells.
It's very true. But when they're on your spell list here, as it always says in Dungeons & Dragons language, they are cleric spells for you nonetheless. Yeah. So jumping forward to, you do get bonus proficiencies with heavy armor now and martial weapons. Wait, these guys don't just go heal? No, you can use weapons, dude. You've been healed. You're welcome.
Thanks, man.
So you get Eyes of the Night, which allows you to see through the deepest gloom. Ryan, what does that do?
That's like 300 feet of dark vision.
300 feet of dark vision.
Absurd.
And as an action, you can magically share the dark vision with other people if they're willing to.
Yeah, so this is something if you know you're going to have a lot of humans in your party.
Yeah, you'll be the best friend, dude.
This is the guy to have.
I mean, and then there's also a first level thing, which is just like, if you want to get going and you're playing a first level one-shot, clerics are a pretty damn good choice.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of stuff right off the wazoo. I mean, the Vigilant Blessing, which allows you to touch another creature, just one creature. Okay, so it doesn't have to even be willing. They get advantage on the next initiative roll. Can be kind of tough to time that right. Still fun. Still fun. Jumping forward, though, your Twilight Sanctuary. Is that fun? Do you like that? You have it.
Yeah, well, it's something actually we haven't touched upon yet, is Channeled Divinity.
Yes.
Each domain has their own version of Channeled Divinity, but you also, as a cleric, just have Channeled Divinity for turning undead, which for most levels just means they're more or less feared by you, and they can't get closer to you. They have to spend their turn running away. But at higher levels, you
based
can
off of CR, right?
Yes, based off their CR, you can just demolish them. Boom.
I've got to ask too.
Hordes of undead just destroyed.
With great power comes great balancing and nerfing, right? So I've always wondered what the justification is for having things in these RPGs and these video games for these clerics and religious people to be able to just eat undead out of places.
To be fair, at that level, you toss your sorcerer wizard might toss a spell and kill in one hit anyway. True. So it's just a way to clear up the ads a lot faster. But obviously, as a DM, you could just say, okay, well, this horde's gone. Next round, a new horde arrives. You're fighting like a necromancer or something. And to be fair, there's a lot of creatures, and especially within Curse of Strahd, I'm sure, that say they're immune to turn undead. Because they're more powerful. Seems a bit of a cop-out, but, you know, they're just saying it's a strong ability. We don't want you to just kill this guy immediately, fear them infinitely. It's not my favorite kind of balancing, but it happens. But each domain, each subclass then has their own version of Channel Divinity. For example, as we were saying, the Twilight Sanctuary has Twilight Sanctuary, which allows you to have a sphere with some dim light, and whenever creature ends its turn inside the sphere, you can give it some benefits. It's nice. I like that it gives you other uses for Channel Divinity, because some of the subclasses I don't ever touch Channel Divinity. I've used it maybe once or twice in the Dungeon Chronicles. I haven't noticed you do much at all. Yeah, most I do with Eyes of the Grave. That's about it. That's not a Channel Divinity feature. But the Tasha's optional feature, which allows you to utilize your Channel Divinity to get a spell slot back, and that's huge. That's all you Warlocks out there. Yes. Multi-classing. I looked this up today. It does work for your spell slots. So if you're a Warlock out there and you have time to take 2 points or 2 levels of cleric, you get a domain. You get some awesome other features. Get some new spells. You get some cleric spells, but spell slot refreshing. Now I know it's sacrilege. This isn't the Warlock episode, so I'm gonna stop here. And it's just a bonus action. Just one. Wait, what? Yeah, as a bonus action, you touch your holy symbol, utter a prayer, and regain 1 expended spell slot level, which can be no higher than half your proficiency bonus. I am all sorts of confused. Dude. That's huge. I mean, it can't be, so the most it can get to is like a 3rd level spell slot, but still. My next character might be a Cleric Warlock. Cleric Warlock. Hey, I've branched out. I've had some other sessions where I've not played Warlock, but I've also had another session. What, 1? I think 3. Really? Yeah, I've had 3 one-shots lately that I haven't played. One of them was a Paladin Warlock. I'm sorry. Okay, so that doesn't count. So 2. But, you know, I might subtract those as well because I literally just played the same character in another campaign last night. Yes, literally the same. They even literally the same character. They made a canon way for them to get across. I'm sorry. Well, back to clerics, I suppose. Yeah, back to you, supposing. I mean, you get some destroy undead stuff at 5th level as well. All clerics do. Divine Strike is also fun. Well, that's specifically for the Twilight domain. I don't have to get too much. It's basically a smite of sorts. Did you say Divine Strike? So you said? Divine Strike. Yeah, so Divine Strike is an interesting thing because that's a universal one. That's what I thought. What's the other one? Destroy Undead? No, Potent Spellcasting. So Cleric is interesting that depending on the domain you choose, you either at 8th level get Divine Strike or Potent Spellcasting. The difference is one boosts your cantrips, while the other one boosts your strikes, your melee strikes. But I guess they realized that they wanted to change this. They made a thing in Tasha's, an optional feature that allows you to basically combine the two, called Cantrip Versatility. No, sorry, not that. Blessed Strikes, which allows you to, if you damage somebody from your cantrips or weapon attacks, it does basically the exact same thing, but combines them into one. So take that instead.
Anytime there's a feature, like a big feature late in like a class's abilities or whatever have you, and it's based on cantrips and whatnot, it feels so underwhelming. Because, I mean, there's some good cantrips. Eldritch Blast, Warlock exclusive, shout out, let's go. But some of the other ones just aren't that great. So it's like, why would I want an 8th level feature that buffs my 0 level spell?
Yeah, it feels bad whenever they mess up, when you can't save against them, you know? Or when they can save and you don't do any damage. I guess it's a cantrip, that's the trade-off. But the better thing, I guess, about Divine Strike is that it scales. It does go up.
Yeah.
While the other one, like at 14th level, it's now 2d8.
Dude, any ability that doesn't scale in this game,
doesn't.
I just don't understand.
Blessed Strike doesn't. That's a trade-off. And potent spellcasting just ups you do extra damage or stuff by your wisdom modifier.
But can we talk about my favorite thing for clerics? And I've experienced this firsthand at my player just surviving, or not my player, your player, my friend.
Okay.
My friend. We love her. She's a rogue. She gets herself into all sorts of trouble, man. She needs lots of healing, right?
Yes.
All the time. All the time.
That's what clerics are best at.
She died once and then twice, but she comes back because she signed a deal with the devil because she can't read.
Yeah.
And this third time here, we're not sure if she's going to come back because we kind of broke the contract. We don't know.
Yeah, her soul gets sucked somewhere.
It was crazy. So our cleric, and I didn't even know about this ability, Daniel, bless Daniel's soul, the character Aloric. We love him so much. Says, yeah, I'm going to chat with my god for a second, okay? Can I do that? And we're like, yeah, all right, I don't know where this is going. So divine intervention.
Jesus.
At 10th level, you can speak with your deity, and for a very low chance. At this point, it's a 1 in 10 chance. Or 1 in 10?
When you get it, it's, 1 in 10 chance, I believe.
So a 10% chance of whatever you're asking your god for assistance on, that it will happen. And I don't know what you rolled. I think you rolled a D10 or she rolled it.
You roll a D100.
A D100. And if it's equal to or less than your cleric level, you're good. So as you level up, you go to 11, it's 11 out of 100. And if you get to 20, that's the max chance you have. But at 20th level, it just automatically happens. But that's not a big deal. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Our friend came back to life because they rolled the number that they wanted, that we needed on the die. And for the third time, our rambunctious rogue came back to us.
Yeah, the divine god was smiling upon you that day.
Like, what? And it was some cool flavor, too, because it's a spin on the chained god. It's like, no, you're still bound to this world. She comes back. Clerics can do these kinds of incredibly impactful things.
It's kind of like a mini Wish in a way.
I mean, yeah. So I was talking to you about it as well. I think some players are going to see this as a mini Wish. And a wish comes true not in part of some random god. It's just the fabrics of magic and space-time comprehending your words and magical intent and creating something that is what you said, whether it's exactly what you want or not, you don't know.
The creators of the spell definitely were inspired by genies, for sure.
Exactly, but there's no genie involved in that. In this, it's a god, and your domain comes back here. Like, what if the means in which your god can do things and their capabilities are according to your DM, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're working with some god that is, in your case, what are some of the scriptures and ideals of your god that Daniel had?
He's very caring, self-sacrifice, putting others before yourself, that kind of type of stuff.
So what do you think would happen if Aloric in this case entreated this god and said, I want to do something that cares only for me and hurts others, but still succeeds? What would you do?
That'd be a tough one. I mean, he would listen, of course, but it probably wouldn't be in the exact way that Daniel, the character, would want. Yeah. It'd be twisted, not twisted, but it would be in a way that still not benefits, but
still follows these rules the god
tenets
has. Otherwise, like, why is the god of these things?
Why would they be helping you?
So I just think there's a lot of interesting role play opportunity here outside of just the amazingness that you have with the spells that you've got. In regards to what else you get as you go farther, of course, you've got your high level
But
shit.
it also allows you to, besides divination spells, of course, allows you to, depending on the world you're in, see some more of that divine interaction. Some worlds are very low, like Eberron and stuff like that, Dragonlance as well. You don't really see much of the deities.
Mm-hmm.
While in Forgotten Realms, they're everywhere. They walked with humanity. So it's, depending on your world, this could be a way for you to even see your god more often.
At all. Yeah, I mean, as a warlock right now, I don't even hardly know anything about my patron.
Sad day.
Makes sense because they're from the Far Realms, and why the hell would they pick some peon tiefling?
True.
In particular.
You're siphoning off of them.
I just accidentally like licked up a bit of their sweat, and now I'm bound to them for some reason. I don't know.
Disgusting.
Clerics are cool, man. Don't think that they're boring because you can just say, hey, I've got a mini wish at level 10. So you have to play for a while. Not all the campaigns get to that point. Ability score improvement, feats and whatnot, and then you get your 17th
correct
level.
me if I'm wrong, Braxton,
Yeah.
since you have it in front of you.
You are wrong.
At 20th level, does it just happens, right?
It just succeeds.
Okay, so it
No
just
roll
succeeds.
required. So rather than having the twice as frequent chances when you first got it, let's just jump to 100%. Let's just go ahead and go all the way. That's
And
fine.
if once it happens, you can't do it again for 7 days.
Yeah, there's a cooldown, so we'll see. I'm interested because these sorts of things, like while it is 7 days, and you might have changed it for 10 days in your game. I don't know. Still 7 days? Just keep the balance? Yeah. So it's not overpowered because there's a lot of like room for the DM to alter things and giving a way for you to interact with your DM both at the very beginning by saying, I have this god. What do they like? Let me learn about it. There's still ways for you to interact with the DM and bring them in. I love these sorts of interactions. So Cleric has become something that I feel like I could see myself playing. These one shots that have come up, I'm like, I kind of want to throw Cleric
Check
in
it out, man.
with maybe like a sorcerer or a fighter
Warlock.
or a warlock. Now might as well just you rip the band-aid off and go back to it, man.
Which brings us to an interesting point, Braxton. You've made your character. You've gotten it finished on D&D Beyond, and now you're like,
Where's going?
how do I flesh this guy out now? You've chosen your domain. You started talking to your DM on what your god's gonna be. Maybe it's Tyr, maybe it's some other stuff. Who knows? Kalimvor. So you figured out and learned a little bit about your god. Now where do you go? What's your RP? I mean, so stuff I would consider for you as I play a cleric, in the Dungeon Chronicles, and these are things that I've considered, and we've had interactions in our games. But stuff like, what's your relationship with your deity? Do you have multiple deities? I'd say, I believe that's a thing in Tasha's. I can't remember where it says this. It might just be making this off the top of my head. But I believe there's maybe it's Xanathar's. I think it's Xanathar's. That says you could, in theory, worship multiple gods. You could worship the whole good domains, all the good areas, or all the evil areas, or just focus on like all of nature stuff, whatever.
Yeah, some of the gods are friends.
So it's definitely something you can play around with. You also got like, did you convert recently? Are you close with this guy? Have you been talking to him a lot? Do you want to try to convert other people? How do you respond to other people's gods? Because I'm sure that'll come up in your games.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll see some other asshole walking around with a different amulet on. You're like, hey, fuck you, dude. My god's better than you.
Maybe not the red flag, blue flag thing.
But also, I think the fun thing to think about, and we talked about this with the wizard, just, because wizards read a lot. Maybe they're the nerdy guys. They have some weird idiosyncratic stuff. But with clerics, you kind of get to play around with rituals and things that you have to do for your god. Maybe you have to wash your food before you eat it every time. Well, why may wash your socks? But you have to wash your food every time before you eat it. And sure, that makes sense for most things, but you got to wash your bread, and then that's weird. You got to eat soggy bread.
Do you really want to follow this god?
Yeah, do you really want to follow this god? Sounds like a weirdo if he makes you do this. But you can kind of use real world religions as inspiration for this type of stuff, because some have interesting rituals, things that people believe in, and things that they have to do every day. Obviously, you don't do the exact same stuff. If you want to pray 4 times a day, you can in D&D. It might just be a little tough to make you to have it work out, but you can. I just think there's some cool stuff you can play around there with some RP aspects. And I'm sure the other players in your party will be like, what the hell is this guy doing? He's sitting on the ground, pacing around, walking around a tree 5 times, touching it, licking it. I mean, that's strange.
It's a great thing to bring into. If you need some mechanic motivation to do these things, there's a great resource based around piety as well for the gods. And I was going to use it.
Gods of Faerun.
Yeah, that's it. And I've paid for it. It's not expensive at all. And they give you the PDF.
It's like $10, something like that.
It might even be less than that. I should really have it. I didn't think about it in regards to this.
It's on DM's Guild.
Yeah. So definitely check it out. And specifically in regards to like the Dungeon Chronicles, our live play on Twitch. Check it out on Dungeon Crawl Network on Twitch as well. Every other Monday, coming up on the 17th of May. That's our next one. So you probably missed it. I don't know.
Yes, they have missed it.
You probably missed it. So in regards to I always do this. So in regards to that, I wanted to have everybody do it, but it seemed like a bit much. And for clerics in particular, they give you stuff that maybe like magic items would have done. These abilities, advantage on certain types of checks, if you're doing things that your god would like. And it's completely on the discrepancy of the DM. Sure. They can add it or remove it. There's some popular Skyrim mods that if you pray a certain amount a day, or if you always kill a certain type of monster, maybe you always wash your bread, like Ryan said, you get certain benefits. So if you really want like a tangible, successful feeling for doing these RP moments, then that's something outside of being the class in general.
Well, even if you're not doing the piety system, it's still great for RP to make you think of things that your god. And it's only for Faerun god, which I believe is Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, it's Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I think so. So it's only those gods. So
True.
If you're doing a homebrew world, it might not have connections, but still you might find a god of life, probably has similar tendencies as the god of life in Faerun. So you can use it as ideas and inspiration on what your character believes in, what they follow, and maybe what brought them to this god in the first place.
It's cool stuff, dude. I don't know. Again, it's like coming full circle. Our clerics, these boring healers that get pigeonholed into. Oh, okay. So, I mean, think of Overwatch. Roll Q, all your friends pick DPS and tank. Might as well play the cleric. You've surprised them. Turn all of those friends into cleric lovers with all the shit that you do, so that when they go play with other people, like, I want to be the cleric, and then everybody else is free to choose what they want, because these guys can be badass and outshine the other players if they want. It depends.
Now, Braxton, what if I don't want to worship anybody, but
I don't know if that's allowed.
I want to be a cleric.
I don't know
is
if that's
that okay?
allowed. I don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
You know?
I mean, according to Dungeons and Dragons, especially D&D Beyond, it says you need to pick a domain and a god.
Well, you can pick a domain, but you don't have to necessarily have a god.
Then where are you getting these powers from?
All right, so think about it this way, right? Think about it this way. You could worship not worship, but believe in the good of humanity. I don't know, the good of the world, because there are planes of good. The positivity,
that is true.
Positive plane. I think it's called that. I don't remember. But there's these planes, and you could, in theory, think these gods. I'm trying to remember what the world is. There's a specific setting for D&D where it's similar to this, where the gods exist, right? But they're not. I don't know. You don't see them, right? They're not walking around in the world every day. So you could, in theory, say that these gods are false, non-believers. They're siphoning, just like how you are siphoning from the good, the positive plane, and so you're worshiping. You're getting your power from the top. You're removing the middleman, more or less.
What I will say about that is, you think of spellcasters based off of where they get their powers, and that's what divides them really. Sorcerers. Yeah. They were just born with some innate font of magic with them. They're very often related to the chosen ones or some sort of like dragonborn, where you get this dragonborn. But I don't know. I'm half dragon for some reason. Are you the dragonborn? Fusroda. Let's go.
To the knee.
Warlocks, they're idiots and went into, not all, but they went into a pact with some crazy powerful being, probably a sorcerer or some shit, a devil. I don't know.
Lich.
And they get their powers by doing the bidding, possibly unwillingly or against their intent. They get these powers from there, and they have this pact. Yeah. For wizards, they're really smart and they read a lot. They just read a lot, so they're able to cast it.
In touch with nature.
Mm-hmm.
You can even say that druids are like a cleric-ish.
Yeah.
If you're worshiping the god of nature as a druid.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm getting to, is druids get their power from nature, something that exists just kind of in the world rather than an entity, a person that's bequeathing it to you. Mm-hmm. So for clerics, if you want to go the no god route, it's more similar to they draw their power from concepts, from emotional ideas, from believing in things.
Like paladins with their tenets.
Yeah, paladins follow a regimen. I mean, could you be a paladin without a god?
The reason why I ask this question is because there are some worlds that exist, some homebrewed worlds where gods don't exist, or they've all been killed by some terrible big bad guy.
Or there's some sort of blockage in the planes, which has been in some very popular tabletop RPG podcasts, which I won't mention because spoilers.
Which is, again, so the reason why I brought up the question, if a player wants to play in my world and I don't have any gods, or as a DM, when I'm making my world, do I need to think about that? If I don't want gods, then if a cleric were to play, what do they do?
Right.
Things you got to be thinking about when you're at least world building or creating your character.
It's a really cool question. He posed it to me and I was like, never really thought about that. But it makes sense mechanically. I might literally need a reason that my god isn't here or that I'm following something that isn't a god for the things that he just stated. But to come again back around to the top of the episode in the title, what's the best class for Ravenfall and why? Because we did mention that, so I want to give them something.
Ravenloft.
It's a Ravenfall. Sorry, this is something in our game. Ravenloft. I didn't say that. Don't look at it.
It's the second time you've done that.
It's a second. You know what? It's fine. Look at me. I'm the captain now. I'm the cleric now. So for clerics, turn undead good, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it is.
You get to do all the healing. You mentioned it in the beginning as well.
Divine damage or radiant damage is good.
Yeah.
Kind of some, I guess, staple spells I would think
Great
about.
Food and water.
Great food and water.
Travel. Domains of Dread are not easily still.
Yeah, if your DM cares about stuff, and the only time I would care about stuff is in a Domain of Dread, in a desert, stuff like that, where create food and water is important, or foraging. But some other spells I think about are Spiritual Weapon. Huge. It's a bonus action. I mean, my God. You also got what's one of my what's the one where you Guiding Bolt? I love Guiding Bolt.
Is really good.
Guiding Bolt's very strong.
Yeah, create destroy water. You got your detect good and evils as well.
Some would argue Healing Word is stronger because it's a bonus action, but I still think unless you're I think Life Domain is the one I'm thinking of. Unless you're Life Domain, which takes the full advantage of that Healing Word spell, I would focus on Cure Wounds.
Yeah, and if your party's actually dying a lot, this is one of the classes that has those reviving or death warding abilities too.
Yeah, very important.
I mean, I love the spells that they get, and some are surprising to me too, like invisibility, see invisibility. I love it. Zone of Truth. If you listen to the Adventure Zone, it's probably what you know most about clerics. They cast this Zone of Truth that everybody inside cannot fib, cannot tell a lie. It's just a lot of fun. So not only is it one of these classes that's great for mechanics for fighting, if you've got a one shot that is just all dungeon crawling, or if it's RP, both will work.
I mean, spoilers, Braxton. What's one thing that vampires don't like?
Garlic.
Oh, okay, let's name another one.
Rivers.
Keep going.
Light.
There you go.
Hey, third time's the charm.
They got a daylight spell.
Woo!
Baby. Bust that shit out.
Do you know that vampires and undead don't like rivers? They don't like crossing water.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
It's very weird. Lord of the Rings. That makes us popular. If we mention Lord of the Rings once every episode.
The Nazgul.
I feel like I had other references, but I haven't seen Lord of the Rings in like 2 years.
I just watched it. We had Olive Garden.
So you know the scene I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're walking across, or they're not walking, they're in the horses about to cross the river, and she's like, and the river comes out, and there's like horses in the river. It's cool.
The horses kind of look like, I don't know what's going on. I always laughed at that scene because they're like,
isn't it impressive? It's a quick sidebar. Isn't it impressive that movie came out in like 2001? Dude. And it still looks incredible.
That just goes to show you what happens, because like for Star Wars, they had no budget at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few CGI moments where it's like, it's a little like the Troll, not super well done, but still, I mean, compared to things that have come out past that looked worse, I think the way it pays off, and you guys can watch some sick documentaries on this, is the amount of practical effects that they did in that movie,
and the miniatures that they did for Lord of the Rings as well.
My God, what they did to show off the height discrepancy between
all the
hobbits.
different shots and shit.
Yeah,
okay, so
this all practical.
Oh man, oh no. Third podcast?
We're doing a movie podcast?
Third podcast? I'd be terrible at that.
Did you know there's people, that's their job, is to be a Tolkien expert? Can you imagine? That's your whole job, is to read Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion.
I mean, more power to you.
It's crazy to think about. He literally only had 4 books when he died. That's insane. And the impact that Tolkien has had on our world is...
Well, I mean, you think about Dungeons and Dragons, we've got a player that takes more notes than Ryan's probably written. This is our cleric, by the way, so it is relevant. So I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It is very crazy.
That'd be a fun job, I think. Might be, I don't know.
Depends on how much you get paid for. Are there benefits? I don't know. We'll see what goes on.
So last thing I want to bring up on clerics before we end the podcast is a little more RP stuff. Xanathars is great for role-playing stuff.
Xanathars is great in general.
True. But it's great for role-playing because it has the whole section that this is your life stuff, which you probably want to look through as you're making your character regardless. But each class has 3 like roll tables on it, I believe. 3 different roll tables. Things for you to think about. The ones that they use and give you are temples and keepsakes that your cleric might have.
Oh, that's cute.
And the final one is secrets, because you don't necessarily have to play a good cleric. Like you could be a guy that's a bumbling idiot that happens to follow like the good god, and he's doing it badly, but he's trying. He's doing his best.
Yeah.
But so I love the idea of a flawed priest. But so like temples and stuff. Work with your DM, but also it's fun to make up your own. Like my players, I give them full reign on one of their temples. They just went crazy with it. But this is where you get your instruction. Like wizards have an academy, a school that they go to. This is where you get trained in the art of being a cleric.
Wait, did Daniel write Tatum?
No, he didn't.
Oh, thank God.
But so it's interesting to think about like how.
Not because it's bad, Daniel, if you're listening right now, just because I liked that quest a lot.
Love you, Daniel.
Love you.
But it's interesting to think about the real world connections. Like the goddess of the dead might run a hospice or run a graveyard. So it's an obvious choice. A mortuary, funeral home, that type of thing. Because if someone's dying, the goddess of dead doesn't like undeath, doesn't like ghosts and stuff. So you don't want someone to die painfully. So that's why they have hospices and these funeral homes to help people work through this stuff. Because ghosts suck. But you can also think of like the god of the harvest could run a soup kitchen, or could run like a really big farm that everyone tills and works at. So what does your temple look like? I mean, think about it. You can go crazy. I think why this is so cool and why I loved it in my own game is because it gives the place, the player specifically, but obviously the party, a place to return to, a place to go to, kind of call their own. Obviously, the players can all get their own place and the party can make one together, but that one player has a place that is specifically theirs, that everyone knows them, cares about them. This is their place they can return to after decades of fighting monsters. And everyone's like, hey, what's up, Joe? It's good to have you back. I mean, that's a good feeling.
Yeah. It's the place where the AC is turned on to the right temperature as soon as you walk in.
Ooh.
Reason I mention that is because the air conditioning just turned on in here, and oh boy, is my sweat cooling down.
Are you getting toasty in here?
Yeah, if you lean forward a little bit, there's some AC that's shooting right there.
Oh.
It's toasty.
I love when you walk into a building and you just get hit with it.
I know, it messes up my hair, but I'm eventually glad for it.
Well, I don't know. Okay, maybe not that hard, not like a fan, but it's like 100 degrees outside. You walk in and just get hit with this wall of cold.
That's your church.
Great spell, by the way.
Sometimes, if you do like
it's
it.
probably a spell. Wall of cold? I don't think so.
Wall of frost?
Cone of cold.
Cone of cold is a very good spell.
That's a crazy spell.
It is kind of a crazy spell.
That's a crazy spell.
You know what's even crazier?
What?
Clerics. They're really good. You should play one.
Yeah.
If you want to see somebody live play one every other Mondays, he does it on the Dungeon Chronicles.
I do. Or mono.
So let's talk about that. If you guys want to tell us that we had really terrible opinions and that clerics actually do suck, we do have social media at Dungeon Crawl Pod on Twitter and Instagram every week. We post a couple of clips from the intro and some maybe informational bits of both the Dungeon Crawl and the Dungeon Chronicles. Fun stuff. Also, email exists, thedungeoncrawlpod@gmail.com. Cool. If we were actual YouTubers, it'd be right here, but it's in the description. Down below somewhere, we have a link tree. We have a Discord. We've been playing a lot of Overwatch. We've been conducting one shot after one shot. Different community members and different people who've been in the Discord are like, hey, guys, I've got this time on this day at these times for this many people. Here's what I want you to do. And everybody's like, hell yeah, sure. So if you want to jump in, play some more D&D because you don't have an area or group to do it, jump into the Dungeon Crawl Discord, link tree down below. Mic drop, except not because this is expensive.
Quick shout outs. I forgot to mention these earlier. 2 other books. You mentioned Gods of Faerun.
Yes.
Great read. But 2 other books that are also, I believe both, I know one obviously is because it says the name. I believe both of them are Forgotten Realms specific, but both fantastic books if you want to get into paladins or clerics. Faiths of the Forgotten Realms and Faiths and Pantheons. Faiths and Pantheons, I believe, is like a 4th edition, 3rd edition book. Still good read, and you can find it pretty cheap. And Faiths of the Forgotten Realms is a DM's Guild book that has a 1st edition and a 2nd edition, and each one has little extra deities in there. last thing, do you want to talk about the Strahd thing or no?
I think it's fine at the end of the episode. So if you don't want to know anything about Strahd and whatnot,
or Ravenloft, I should say.
Ravenloft,
sorry.
yeah, Ravenfall. I'm just kidding. So if you don't want to know anything about that before it comes out, I think keep away from Twitter maybe because the table of contents has been leaked willingly.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Talked about last episode
or 2 episodes. I don't remember.
What was our last episode?
What was it?
Yeah,
it was about running switching from player to DM.
Oh, I had fun talking about
vice
that
versa.
one.
Yeah,
check that one out.
Yeah,
so I was with Kenneth because I'm visiting down here and I need places to stay. And Kenneth turns to me and he goes, "Hey, Brax, did you hear the thing about Ravenloft?" And I go, "Oh, what do you mean?" And he had this negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the worst. He goes, "Yeah, so all of the main dudes of the domains of Dreads, what are they called?" Yeah, are you forgetting?
I'm forgetting.
So basically the Strahds of each of their domains.
Yeah,
These are the
lords.
big people, the lords of the domain. They've been imprisoned here because they're that bad, and it reflects them. There's no stat blocks for any of them. None of them in the entire thing. And Kenneth was talking to me like, you're paid to write things. So write things, make things. And Ryan was saying that maybe they're catering to the players too much because they don't want the players to know stat blocks, perhaps, when they're buying these things.
Literally just called Dark Lords.
I don't know. Is it like one of the first things you see?
It's just dark. I was just looking at my old notes. Yeah,
I gotta wonder if this is just like a flavor setting book with no like numbers or tools.
I mean, so we've seen the table of contents, right? And each domain has a handful, a good chunk of pages. And I believe from what I heard is that there's adventure or possibilities, quest hooks that could be in each place. And I think did you mention that they have recommendations?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have recommendations, but their CRs are way off.
Yeah, like Knight for the CR13.
Yeah.
Domain
so people
lord
have been
person.
Talking about how using old books and looking over them or just buffing them up. I was telling Braxton that there's probably going to be a DM
It creates
guild.
jobs.
Yeah, it's going to be a DM's guild, probably 100 of them in the first week of.
It's not all negative, but as I often say with all of these debates going on about we don't want these characters with genders assigned to them. We don't want stat blocks assigned to them because we want to fill in the blank ourselves. And for me, like that's a noble pursuit as well. More inclusivity allows people to change stuff. But I will also posit that Wizards of the Coast isn't making some grand statement about this NPC that they have to be this. They're not like some crotchety playwright that says if you do my play on the stage, it has to be the way I want to do it. And there's like racism and shit in that play. It's not exactly like that.
Yeah, they're always very open to the book. Always opens with, hey, you can modulate and change all of this stuff.
So with that caveat, for me, it's like I want them to do what they're getting paid to do. Make me content. I'll change it if I want to. Give me a stat block.
The biggest problem with this is if you're buying one of these, spending $60, $30, whatever, if you're spending this money on this book, you as the DM don't want to do extra work.
Yeah, I want to look in the stat block and say, how do I run this shit? Fold it open, let's go.
That's why you buy modules. That's why people buy Curse of Strahd, buy, I don't know, Under the Abyss. I don't know what the hell they're called. That's why you buy these, because you don't have the time to homebrew your own world. You don't have the time to homebrew your own campaigns. A lot of these, you have to put in so much work. Like we have someone in the Discord that's running Curse of Strahd is homebrewing so much. And I mean, that's what I did when I did Curse of Strahd too. If you have people that are playing it before and don't want to spoil them.
It's very common.
Yeah, do new stuff. But it's also, there's things in there that it's better if you homebrew it. It's better if you change things, add things there. And you can say it's fine and dandy, but it seems like Wizards of the Coast is almost like moving in that direction. Where it's like, let's have the DMs do more work. Let's give them no stat blocks and have them do everything.
So this does kind of go in line with their idea that they don't want to segment the player base by producing things that create tools and stat blocks and creatures that you have to just buy a bunch of shit to do. This introduces less. It's flavor purely. So if you're on D&D Beyond and you see a cool Lord of Dread and you're like, oh, I want to use them, but you open it and the stat block's hidden because you have to buy Ravenloft, that won't happen with this because they don't exist.
Well, so the weird thing is there are a lot of monsters in here. There are stat blocks for
Never
creatures.
mind then.
And that's would you rather
I tried.
Would you rather have a 30 Dark Lord stat blocks and no extra monster stat blocks, or have the monster stat blocks?
How many Dark Lords do they have?
Well, there's 30 different domains, right?
Do you know a single D&D creator that would be like, no, I don't want to make a Dark Lord. I don't want to make a dude that owns an entire fucking plane or portion of the Shadowfell or wherever the hell they are.
It's hard to make high CR
It's
stuff.
hard, but like, dude, what if you want to make the next, like, that's such a cool opportunity. I don't know, man. I don't know how they run this stuff. I like how video games have been trying to save themselves. They've been telling people, hey, this is why we made these decisions. I want some of that. I want a little bit more. Not in some YouTube video elsewhere. I want it, like, I want a director's cut or director's commentary. CD. Fucking put a VHS in there. I'll figure out how to play it.
I mean, if I had to guess why, it's because there's 30 of them. They're like, we don't want to make 30
Yeah.
of these guys. I mean, they don't even have all of the, I mean, granted, there's a lot of them, but they don't even have all the princes of the Abyss statted. I don't believe. They have a good chunk in
That's
Volos.
true, they didn't.
I don't think they have all of them in there, though.
That's fine having some. People will, make them on
Yeah, they could just put a few in there.
GM's Guild. Yeah. And then because you gave them some examples, they can balance it similarly to what you've done if it's received well.
Like, they could. I don't know why they're not putting Strahd in there. I guess they want you to buy. So if you want Strahd, you now have to go buy Curse of Strahd too.
So I think they've already failed in their mission to not just break apart and silo people.
Barovia shouldn't even be in here. I mean, just go pick up Ravenloft or pick up Curse of Strahd. I don't understand.
I don't know, man. But if you want to jump in as well and fight some of these statless Dark Lords with a class, we recommend picking the Cleric to help your team out. Be a good idea.
And when you are the Cleric in your campaign, sit down one evening, pull out your divination spell, maybe your freaking augury, one of the ones. There's like 3 or 4 different spells you can just cast.
A lot of foresight stuff.
That the DM has to say if it's good or bad, weal or woe, or it's neither. Pick out your divination spells. Sit down there with your books.
God damn it.
Don't say God damn it. They're going to get upset with you. Your deities. Sit down there. Concentrate. Divinate. That's a word, right? Divinate?
I don't know.
I think it is. Divinate. And I want you to transport yourself. Ask your God a question. That question is, will you guys out there rate us 5 stars on iTunes? And if the God says, wheel, that's good, right? I think wheel is good.
Yeah.
Wheel, and you smell cinnamon in the air. That's how I rule it. You smell some cinnamon or some nice flowers. Then you need to very quickly go over to Apple Podcasts, find the Dungeon Crawl, rate us 5 stars, say something like my God, say my God, say my God sent me here. Can you imagine going to an Apple Podcast page for the first time? Like, man, I can't wait to listen to this podcast. And you see all the reviews are, my God sent me here.
What if they don't have a God?
That's bad. Well, then say I sent me here.
Damn.
Because maybe you are your God.
Maybe you are a cleric who worships yourself. Your body's a temple. Well, a sorcerer that has turned into... Ooh. Oh, that's it. Multi-class sorcerer cleric worships himself and gives himself power into cleric.
Well, that's what the... What's the awakened soul or something sorcerer?
Yeah, it does sound like that, doesn't it?
I can't remember what
I don't remember
name
either.
of it is.
Something like that.
It's like a divination.
I'm upset. He really got me with that one again, with that iTunes one.
Oh, you thought I was doing like a another cleric?
It's got me every time.
That's the best part, man.
I'm just very gullible. I don't know.
It's called improv, everybody.
I'm not very good at it. I don't know. As always, he's been Ryan.
He's been Braxton.
This is the Dungeon Crawl. Thank you.
The Dungeon Crawl in person.
For calling with us.
Will probably be reality forever soonish.
Mm-hmm. I'm doing some apartment hunting. I might be getting a new job in a day.
Because if you like this in-person stuff, I feel like it's a different vibe.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah, it's more engaging.
I look pretty good today, too.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Never mind.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
I'll work on it.
You look good. Next week, we are doing Ravenloft.
Yep.
So make sure you check out Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. If you are listening to this podcast, it's already out. Not our episode, but the book. So go read it. Go give it a look. Start skimming through it because...
We don't go through everything.
Yeah. You can join us then the week after and kind of think about what our opinions on. And if you haven't picked it up, don't have the money, it's quite a possibility. These books can get expensive.
Usually pretty spoiler free.
Yeah, but we'll give you our reviews, what we think about if it's worth picking up. We might have Kenneth on if he's available, because he's always good for those review sessions. So we'll get you a quick nitty gritty buy or don't buy, or buy one thing at a time on D&D Beyond, whatever you're looking for next week. So
And if you want to get an idea for how we structure them, check out our Icewind Dale episode or Tasha's episode.
I know that's 3 hours, but it's good.
It's fun time. All right, get out of here.
Thanks for crawling with us.
Yeah.
Peace.